Rain hammered the cracked asphalt, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and white. Jamal tugged the hood of his sweatshirt tighter, his sneakers slapping against puddles as he and Tyrese trudged home from basketball practice. The court had been slick, the game short, and both of them were drenched and starving. The street was nearly empty, just the sound of distant traffic, the hiss of tires, and their laughter echoing off the walls of the closed auto shop they passed every night. "Man, I swear coach's drills are trying to kill us," Tyrese groaned, shaking his head. "That's 'cause you can't make a free throw to save your life," Jamal shot back with a grin. Tyrese bumped his shoulder. "Say that again when I drop 40 on you next game." They were arguing about who'd get scouted first when a roar split the night. A sleek black SUV flew past them, far too fast for the wet road. The headlights cut a bright, violent arc as the vehicle swerved, hydroplaned, and slammed into a lamppost with a metallic screech. The pole bent halfway, sparks showering the rain-soaked ground. The sound was raw and final, a noise that made both boys freeze for a heartbeat. Then Jamal ran. "Yo, wait," Tyrese started, but he was already sprinting after him, water splashing up to his knees. The air smelled of burning rubber and gasoline. Smoke was curling from the front of the SUV, the hood crumpled like paper. Jamal skidded to a stop beside it, coughing as the acrid fumes hit his throat. "Hey, you good in there?" he shouted, slamming his palm against the driver's window. No response. Just the faint, wet hiss of the rain hitting metal. He peered inside and saw the driver slumped forward, airbag deployed, a smear of blood on the cracked windshield. "Tyrese, come on, help me," Jamal yelled. Tyrese was already there, yanking at the passenger door, but it wouldn't budge. "It's jammed," he grunted, pulling harder. Jamal tried the driver's side, locked. The smoke thickened. A low pop from the engine made both of them flinch. "Windows. Break it." Jamal grabbed a chunk of concrete from the gutter and smashed it against the glass. It spider-webbed but didn't shatter. The second hit did. Shards flew everywhere, slicing his knuckles. He didn't feel it. Rain poured into the car as he reached inside, fumbling for the lock. It clicked open. The driver, a man in his late 50s, gray hair matted to his forehead, was barely conscious. A faint groan escaped him. His seatbelt was cutting across his chest, pinning him in place. Jamal leaned in, fumbling with the buckle, but it was stuck tight. "Knife, knife," he muttered. Tyrese pulled out his keys, the sharp edge of one serving as a makeshift blade. Together, they pried at the belt until it gave way. The man sagged forward, limp. Smoke was pouring heavier now, and a faint orange glow flickered under the crumpled hood. "Come on, man, we gotta move," Tyrese shouted over the rising wail of a distant siren. Jamal hooked his arms under the man's shoulders, Tyrese grabbed his legs, and they heaved. The man was heavier than he looked, dead weight, but adrenaline drove them. They stumbled backward, dragging him across the wet street until they were clear of the car. Seconds later, a small explosion rattled the ground. The front end of the SUV burst into flames. The heat washed over them, sharp and dry even through the rain. Both boys collapsed beside the man, gasping for air. Jamal's hands trembled, still slick with blood from the glass. Tyrese pressed 2 fingers to the man's neck. "He's alive," Tyrese said, voice shaking. "Bro, he's actually breathing." The man coughed weakly, eyes fluttering open. His gaze darted between them, confused and disoriented. What happened?" he rasped. "You crashed, man," Jamal said, breathing hard. "But you're okay. You're safe." The man's lips moved, as if to speak again, but he winced in pain and went limp, unconscious once more. The sound of sirens grew louder, blue and red lights reflecting in the puddles. Jamal leaned back on his hands, staring at the burning wreck. "That was crazy," he whispered. Tyrese laughed breathlessly, half in shock. "Bro, we just saved somebody's life." Neither of them knew yet that the man lying between them wasn't just anybody, that the suit, the watch, the car all belonged to Richard Cole, billionaire CEO of Cole Industries. At that moment, in the glow of the fire and the cold rain, they were just 2 kids who'd done what no one else had the courage to do: run toward the danger, not away from it. The next morning, sunlight crept through the hospital blinds, turning the sterile white room into something almost warm. Jamal sat in a chair near the bed, hands shoved into the pockets of his hoodie, trying not to fidget. Tyrese leaned against the wall, scrolling through his phone, though he hadn't really looked at the screen in 10 minutes. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was steady, reassuring. The man they'd saved, now awake, was staring out the window with the quiet composure of someone used to control. His bandaged forehead stood out starkly against his silver hair. He looked calm, even dignified, despite the chaos of the night before. When he finally turned to them, his voice carried the authority of a man who'd spent his life being listened to. "You two pulled me out of that car." Jamal nodded quickly. "Yeah, sir. You hit the pole. The car caught fire, so we just did what we had to do." The man studied them for a moment, then smiled, a small, practiced smile that seemed almost rehearsed. "Well," he said, "it appears I owe you my life. My name is Richard Cole." Tyrese blinked. "Wait. The Richard Cole. Like, Cole Industries. The phones, the cars, the satellites. And the scandals," Jamal muttered under his breath, earning a quick elbow from Tyrese. Cole chuckled, clearly used to recognition. "That's right. I suppose you've heard of me. And you are Jamal Hayes," Jamal said. "Tyrese Miller," his friend added. Cole extended his hand, shaking both of theirs with a firm grip. "Well, Jamal, Tyrese, I don't forget debts. If there's anything I can do for you boys, you only need to ask." Before either of them could respond, the door burst open. A small swarm of people entered, men and women in suits, earpieces gleaming, all moving with rehearsed precision. One woman, tall and sharp-eyed, handed Cole a tablet before glancing at the boys. "Mr. Cole, the press is already outside," she said briskly. "We can do a brief statement if you're feeling up to it. It'll look good for both you and—" She stopped, her gaze flicking to Jamal and Tyrese, as if just noticing them. "Our young heroes here." Cole smiled faintly. "Heroes. I like that." He looked at the boys. "Gentlemen, care to join me?" Everything after that moved in a blur. They were led through hospital corridors that smelled of disinfectant and adrenaline, out into a courtyard teeming with flashing cameras. Reporters shouted questions, microphones thrust forward. Jamal blinked under the lights, feeling like he'd stepped into someone else's life. Tyrese grinned awkwardly, waving when someone called his name, not that they knew who he was. Cole stood between them, one arm around each of their shoulders, his practiced smile aimed directly at the cameras. "These two young men risked their lives to save mine," he said smoothly, voice carrying like a well-tuned speech. "Their bravery reminds us that true heroism doesn't come from wealth or status, but from heart." Applause broke out from somewhere. The PR woman nodded approvingly at her phone, already typing. Jamal caught sight of a photographer crouching low, snapping close-ups of his cut-up hands and muddy sneakers. After the flashbulbs died down, they were ushered into a sleek black car, Cole's team insisted. "Mr. Cole wants to personally thank you at headquarters," one assistant explained. Cole Industries Tower was everything they'd imagined: glass, chrome, and power. They were brought to the top floor, where the view stretched over the city like something from a movie. Cole himself walked with them, now dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. "I've been thinking," he said, gesturing for them to sit in his office. "You two have potential. I'd like to offer you internships here. Learn how the business world really works." Tyrese's jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" As a heart attack, Cole said with a grin. "My assistant will set it up. You'll start next week. Paid, of course." Jamal tried to play it cool, but his heart was pounding. "Thank you, sir. We won't let you down." Cole nodded, already glancing at his watch. "I'm sure you won't. Now if you'll excuse me, there's a board meeting to salvage." He shook their hands again, firm, confident, final, before disappearing behind frosted glass doors. They left the tower floating on adrenaline. Tyrese was practically glowing. "Bro, can you believe this? We save a billionaire, and now we're about to work for him." "That's some movie stuff." Jamal smiled, but something about the whole thing felt too polished. Too fast. The way the PR woman had steered them, the perfect speeches, the flashes, it all felt like part of a show they hadn't rehearsed for. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Movie stuff." The next morning, they put on their best clothes, which, for them, meant clean jeans and ironed shirts, and headed for the building again, full of nervous excitement. But when they reached the lobby, the security guard frowned at them. "Names?" he asked. "Jamal Hayes and Tyrese Miller. We're here for the new intern positions," Tyrese said proudly. The guard typed for a moment, then frowned deeper. "Not on the list. You sure you're in the right place?" "Yeah," Jamal said, confusion creeping in. "Mr. Cole said." The guard's radio crackled. A voice came through, low and curt. The guard listened, nodded, then looked back at them with an apologetic shrug. "Sorry, boys, you'll have to leave." Outside, rain had started again, soft, steady, almost mocking. Tyrese stared up at the gleaming glass tower, disbelief written all over his face. "Man, we saved his life." Jamal shoved his hands into his pockets, watching the raindrops slide down the building. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Guess that's all he needed from us." 3 weeks later, the story of the crash had vanished from the headlines, replaced by politics, celebrity scandals, and market updates. For Jamal and Tyrese, life had slipped back to normal, or at least, what passed for it. They still played ball at the cracked city courts, still helped Jamal's mom at the grocery store on weekends, still dreamed of getting out of their neighborhood. But sometimes, when the game slowed or the night got too quiet, they'd talk about Richard Cole, the billionaire they'd saved, the man who'd promised them opportunity and handed them silence instead. At first, they'd waited for a call. Each day, Tyrese would check his phone like a habit. "Maybe they're still sorting paperwork," he'd say, half believing it. But as the days dragged on, the truth settled in, they'd been used. One rainy evening, Jamal sat on his couch, flipping through channels while his little sister colored on the floor. The news anchor's voice cut through the background noise. "Breaking news. Federal investigators have launched a formal inquiry into coal industries after leaked documents revealed widespread fraud." Jamal froze. The screen showed Richard Cole being escorted through a crowd of reporters, flashbulbs exploding like tiny storms. His polished calm was gone. He looked older, cornered. Tyrese called seconds later. "Yo, turn on channel 5. You seeing this?" "I'm watching," Jamal said, lowering the volume. The report continued. Sources allege that Cole's team falsified charity events, staged photo ops, and used fabricated acts of goodwill to inflate company stock value. Then the image changed, and there they were. Jamal and Tyrese, in their wrinkled hoodies, standing beside Cole in front of the hospital, his arm around them. The caption read, "Cole's PR scandal. We're heroes, part of the lie." Tyrese's voice cracked over the phone. "Bro, they're saying we were in on it." Jamal felt heat rise in his chest. "We risked our lives for that man. And now we're props in his fraud case." The next day at school, whispers followed them. Phones were out, screens showing their photo under bold headlines. "Fake heroes. PR stunt. Paid actors." Teachers avoided the subject, but the looks said enough. Pity from some, suspicion from others. At lunch, Tyrese slammed his tray down. "I'm done with this, man. Everyone thinks we took money. My aunt even asked if I got paid for saving the CEO." Jamal sighed, staring at the table. "We can't change what they think. But we know the truth." "Yeah, well, truth doesn't trend," Tyrese muttered. That night, Jamal couldn't sleep. He scrolled through articles, one after another, until he found something buried deep. A whistleblower's report that detailed how Cole's team had combed through local news stories, picking ones that could make him look charitable. The crash rescue had been perfect. 2 poor black teens saving a billionaire. Authentic, inspiring, easy to exploit. The report mentioned that Cole had ordered his PR department to manage the narrative. Manage. Not honor. Not thank. Manage. Jamal's stomach turned. He remembered the flash of cameras, the careful phrasing of Cole's speech, the way the PR woman had guided them where to stand. Every smile, every handshake had been rehearsed. The next morning, Cole's face dominated every screen, testifying before Congress, denying wrongdoing. His voice, once smooth and confident, trembled as he faced questioning. Coal Industries never fabricated charitable events, he insisted, eyes darting. But the evidence was damning. Photoshopped charity receipts, fake scholarship funds, ghost volunteers. And then, again, that photo. Jamal and Tyrese beside him, labeled, Example A. When Tyrese came over that afternoon, he was holding 2 sodas and shaking his head. Man, I swear karma's wild. We saved this dude's life, and now he's out here drowning in his own lies. Jamal managed a tired smile. Guess we pulled him out of one fire just to watch him walk into another. They sat on the stoop as the evening cooled, the neighborhood alive with the sound of car horns and kids yelling down the block. The glow from a passing news van washed over them briefly, chasing yet another story. Tyrese cracked his soda open. Think anyone's ever gonna know we didn't fake it? Jamal looked up at the skyline, where the tallest tower, Coal Industries, now stood half dark, its logo dimmed. Maybe, maybe not, doesn't matter. He leaned back, letting the quiet settle. We did what was right. He didn't. That's the difference. Tyrese nodded slowly. You ever think we should have just kept walking that night? Jamal laughed softly, not bitter, just tired. Yeah, but then we wouldn't have a story to tell. Tyrese grinned. You mean I wouldn't have a story? You know I'm milking this for life. That time I saved a billionaire who turned out to be a crook. Girls love a redemption arc. Jamal chuckled. You're hopeless. They both fell quiet for a moment, the city humming around them. Finally, Tyrese said, Still, I'm glad we did it. Even if it ended like this. Jamal nodded, the memory of the flames and the rain flickering behind his eyes. Yeah, he said softly. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't make you a hero. It just makes you human. The news carried on without them, the world spinning faster than their story could fade. But somewhere deep down, both boys knew that what they'd done that night, the instinct to run toward the wreck instead of away, was worth more than any headline could twist or bury.